Hey everyone, this guide's going to serve as a IO Merc rotation guide. I'm going to try and provide commentary while going through the rotation to kind of explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing. To preface that though, I'm going to go over the gearing that I use. Of course, you reach your accuracy cap. In this case it's 6 pieces plus an augment. I've tried 99.99% before, which technically have a 1 in 10,000 chance of missing. That's 5 accuracy pieces and 3 augments. However, I've missed plenty of stuff during parses and looking over in fights that, you know, you might be missing that enough vital shots that would be the difference in, you know, a 20k wipe, and that was because of all the misses that you had. That would not be ideal, even though 1 in 10,000 is, you know, that's hitting a pretty good jackpot. Crit chance, I personally like high crit. 500 is where I shoot for, give or take a little. If the parse is reaching 31% or more overall ability crits, then I see that the DPS is usually where I want it to be, somewhere in the ballpark of 4,700 or higher. Crit multiplier, I just use 2 pieces, that's 240 surge rating. And then alacrity, I use 2 pieces as well, and then the rest are augments. And I find that you're closer to 7% is really good. You will DPS similar to 13 aim augments, but the nice thing is, because of the shorter channel, shorter activation times, you can sometimes complete casts that you wouldn't actually complete before a mechanic were to negate doing such. So it's a nice boost that I think works for raids. As far as utility goes, improved vents is an absolute mandatory for IO Merc. It's what's going to allow you to go into heat ramping and to come out of it without any issues. It's a big DPS boost essentially. Everything else you can kind of choose on your own. However, I recommend the following: power barrier, custom enviro suit, nice survivability increases. Torque boosters is really a nice utility to have. You know, 10 seconds of override gives you a lot of more mobility time, faster mobility. You know, you can activate hydraulic earlier and negate an effect, you know, that maybe you activated 7 seconds too early. Well, you'll still negate the effect and be good to go. I personally use protective field as my other masterful, and the reason being, you know, if I'm popping energy shield, it's probably a no shit moment. Maybe the raid's in a no shit moment. Being able to get more heals onto me quicker and worry about the rest of the raid makes the job for the healers easier, and that could be the difference in surviving something. And then I personally like thrill the hunt, because that mobile unload is just huge. You're talking about now, instead of 6 seconds where you have to stand still, it's only 3 seconds in your rotation. And then lastly, stabilized armor for any AoE that's unavoidable, or if you're stunned you take less damage, and it's convenient too. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the parsing aspects. Before any parse or boss fight, you should have 10 stacks of supercharge. This is important for maintaining your heat in the opener. So you just do that with Colto Shot. Now, the opener starts with precasting Serrated Shot, followed by Incendiary Missile. After that Incendiary Missile, if you have an Adrenal, if your raid is popping their buffs, then that's a prime time to use your Adrenal just before your Mag Shot, because your dots will be applied. You'll be doing all your higher damage abilities now after that, so it's a good application time. So I'm going to go ahead, try and explain the best that I can what I'm doing. Hopefully I can kind of parse and explain at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and start the parse now. So here's where you'd use the Adrenal. Now after this unload, I'm going to pop Supercharge. Now after the opener, you go straight into heat ramping, which means after this Mag Shot, TSO, unload, thermal detonator. Now we're about to enter the second pass of heat ramping, so we're going to go over 40%. Anytime you go over 40% heat, you slow down your heat cooling or venting. After the Serrated Shot, pop Vent Heat, and you can double Power Shot again. Now notice I have 5 heat going into unload, so I will use Thermal Detonator instead of Rapid Shot right there. Force 10 stacks of Supercharge, so I'll burn Supercharge gas. Now after this Power Shot, Rapid Shot, because if you have the heat, you I'd rather use it on thermal detonator because thermal detonator is a power shot. And of course I had 4 heat going on, so definitely going to use thermal detonator there. Now again, after the power shot, rapid shots, now I have 13 heat going into unload, so I'm just going to rapid shots here. I don't want to put myself in heat trouble. Electronet's coming off cooldown, so I will be using Electronet after the unload. Regardless, of course, if you're high heat, you're not going to use Electronet there. Again, supercharge 10 stacks, so you pop supercharge. Now we're going into heat ramping again, so we're going to double power shot. Thermal sensor override before the unload. Again, because this is heat ramping, double powering shot. Now we're into the second pass of heat ramping, so we'll be back heating after applying both dots. Be careful on things like that, you don't want to clip your unload. So again, double power shot. 5 heat going into unload, so I will thermal detonate. I'm going to have 10 stacks after the first power shot here, so I'm going to try and hit supercharge before the rapid shot. That way I don't waste anything. Now, Missile Blast procced, but Thermal Detonator does more damage there, and I have the heat for it, so I'm definitely going to use Thermal Detonator over Missile Blast. Now, 10 heat here going into unload, so I'm going to use Missile Blast to be safe. I don't want to overheat. Now Electronet's coming off cooldown, so I will be using Electronet. And then TSO is about to come off cooldown again, so I will be going into heat ramping. But because of Missile Blast procced, I will be using a Missile Blast instead of a second power shot with the dots. Now because we're about to actually kill it, I'm going to go ahead, Power Surge, Serrated Shot, Missile Blast, and start my unload. And this is because you're trying to do more of your high damage there. So try not to waste time with reapplying dots or activations or such. So that's kind of an overview of an example of a parse on a 1 million dummy. 4618 DPS, 39.3 APM is not bad. I was kind of slowing it down so that I could actually speak, but really if you're using about 6.6% alacrity like I am, you want to be hitting 39.5 or higher APM. And 4600 is a good average, you know, if you're maybe under critting. I don't know what my crits are on that, but 4600, 4700, that's a good ballpark range for the current gear that I'm in and going through that rotation. That's how you minimize your rapid shots and make sure you do the best possible parse that you can. And there are other things that will happen in the middle of boss fight, obviously. You'll fall out of rotation, you gotta get back on. Best thing to do there is just start from the application of the dots, and this way you don't mess up any of the timings of your internal cooldowns. And that's really all there is to it. It's really not that hard. It's just figuring out what to do after the unload, if you're gonna thermal detonate, missile blast, if you're gonna rapid shot, or if Electronet's available. And then it's understanding what to do after that first power shot that comes after reapplying the dots. Are you going to power shot? Are you going to missile blast? Are you going to rapid shots? And that one's actually even easier to figure out, because if you're not entering heat ramping or in heat ramping, you're certainly not going to double power shot. And even if you are in heat ramping, if you're going to have heat trouble because for some reason something didn't go right, still use a rapid shot there, and that way, you know, you don't put yourself in a bad spot. Because sometimes, like, your heat will sometimes ramp up going into heat ramping in such a way where you actually don't cool down enough. That's rare, but it happens. So, and then of course Missile Blast does less damage than Thermal Detonator, so if you don't have the heat for Thermal Detonator, use Missile Blast if you have the heat available for that. Missile Blast, you know, in a parse, you might use it only 2 to 3 times on a 1 million parse, so don't worry too much about that. Thermal Detonator, you're maybe using it 10 to 12 times on a parse. Ideally, Rapid Shot should be down to about 7 to 8 uses, and that way you're not overdoing it in heat. And of course, as you're going to the end of a boss fight, you can build up heat and overheat that's not a problem, as long as you don't put yourself in a situation where you overheat before the boss is dead and still have to do a significant amount of attacks, because as you sit there doing rapid shots is a absolutely terrible ability that does nearly no damage and misses a lot. And that's pretty much all there is to it.